The man just started working at the nursing home when he discovered something eerie. Although only elderly people lived there, mysterious noises constantly came from the rooms. Since he had just found a suitable job, Max did not want to be meddlesome. Upon returning, the administrator began assigning him his daily tasks. Besides cleaning the trash cans twice a day, the carpets had to be kept spotless. Additionally, the administrator emphasized one point: he must never go to the 4th floor, because the elderly there suffered from severe mental illnesses. During the afternoon hydrotherapy class, an old woman's heart fluttered the moment she saw Max, her expression as shy as an 18-year-old girl. While the two were chatting, a large amount of blood suddenly bubbled from the head of an old man underwater. The scene turned into chaos, but the doctor insisted everyone leave before agreeing to provide rescue. What made Max feel even more creeped out was that an old man on the 4th floor seemed to have targeted him, his eyes revealing a hint of ferocity. That night, he had a terrifying dream. He dreamed someone was constantly whispering in his ear, seemingly reciting ancient incantations, which caused him to wake up instantly. Fortunately, it was just a dream, but just as he calmed down, a piercing scream suddenly came from upstairs, making his back turn cold. Suddenly, Max discovered with horror that his bedroom door had been pushed open at some point, yet he did not pay it much mind. Little did he know something terrible was about to happen. He wasn't woken up by a knock until the next morning. After opening the door, several elderly people came over saying they needed a favor. On the way, they said an old man had soiled his pants and needed help cleaning up. Hearing this, Max immediately frowned, but was still dragged away by them. To his surprise, a large group of elderly people had gathered in the room. They had specially organized a welcome ceremony for Max. After the ceremony ended, the elderly people went back to their own business. Max noticed an old man painting. As if sensing the gaze behind him, the old man playfully licked his tongue at him. Max thought the people here were very kind, but late at night while he was sleeping, a gray-haired man wearing a mask entered the room. The figure slowly crawled toward his bed. Soon, the sound of snoring behind him startled Max awake. Before Max could recover, the person stabbed a dagger into his body. It turned out to be another nightmare. Unable to sleep, Max went to the hallway for air. A burst of singing ahead caught his attention. When Max got closer, he found two elderly people dancing gracefully. He intended to go back to rest, but the terrifying scream came from upstairs again. This time Max could no longer endure it, so he decisively pressed the elevator for the 4th floor. Little did he know this was the beginning of his ordeal. Following the source of the sound, he opened the innermost door. Inside the room sat several dull-eyed old men. Their physical condition was completely different from the elderly downstairs. They were covered in wounds, and the room smelled of a foul stench. At that moment, an old man in the corner noticed him and pointed a finger. Max thought he needed help and walked over without thinking. Unexpectedly, the old man crawled toward him like a madman, scratching at him wildly. Fortunately, the administrator arrived in time to stop him. Afterward, Max was called to the director's office. He explained he heard screams and went to check out of curiosity. The director explained the severity of the situation again and strictly forbade him from entering the 4th floor. This matter quickly spread. Later, an elderly woman named Norma approached Max. Max took the chance to ask her why the people upstairs looked so vacant. Unexpectedly, Norma advised Max not to have too much compassion. Max did not take these words to heart. To figure out what happened to those people, he sneaked back in late at night. He discovered with horror that an old man on the top floor was banging on the window for help, then bit his finger to write something. Before he could react, a person jumped from upstairs. This terrifying scene made Max's scalp tingle. The person who fell was Norma, the old woman he was on good terms with. Max couldn't understand why she would commit suicide, but her death was definitely suspicious. Just last night, he had chatted with her for a long time and gave her a small handmade gift. Moved, the old woman had suddenly changed her expression, solemnly telling him the nursing home had major problems and he should leave. Before she could explain the reason, she left in a hurry. For the next few days, Max never saw the old woman again. He asked the doctor about her, but was told Norma was receiving private treatment upstairs because she was unwell. Knowing the reason, he didn't think much of it, but the next day she passed away in that manner. At the memorial, Max raised his doubts again. Max recounted how Norma told him this place had major problems before she died. Hearing this, the elderly people were visibly stunned, and the administrator stared warily at them. At night, Max was awakened by a nightmare again. A shadow flashed past the door, and something was left in the room. After confirming no one was outside, he cautiously opened the item. It was a light. When he shone the light on the wall, a line of words appeared. With doubts in his heart, he went to the administrator's room. When he shone the light on the person, an F mark appeared on the administrator's neck. To find the truth, Max sneaked into Norma's room the next day while no one was looking. Just as he was about to search for something useful, the administrator appeared behind a cabinet. Max explained he wanted a memento. The administrator angrily told him Norma's belongings were taken to the basement to be burned, then kicked him out. Unwilling to give up, Max went to the furnace in the basement. In the trash, he found the illustration desperation, he gave Norma and a jewelry box. After pocketing the items, he found a notebook containing warnings for him. Realizing something was wrong, Max rushed to his friend Lou's room. Inside, he immediately found something amiss. Lou was holding pliers covered in blood. He had brutally pulled out all his own teeth. Max shouted for help. Fortunately, the old man was rescued in time. Back in his room, he searched for information on the director. A weird window popped up on the webpage, leading to a terrifying game. A virtual person spoke to him through the screen, seemingly trying to tell him something, but the signal was interfered with. A few days later, Max bought many cameras online to install in the hallways. Unexpectedly, a woman suddenly appeared and told Max someone was coming. As soon as she finished, there was a knock. He closed the computer and opened the door. Max explained he didn't sleep well. After dismissing the administrator, Max reopened the computer and called out to the person. He asked the woman who she was and how she knew someone was coming. The woman said she had been observing him and that she was the one who put the UV light in his room. She begged Max to save the people here and not let them turn into monsters like the others. Finally, she told Max that Norma's death was because she said things she shouldn't have. Max wanted to ask more, but the page froze. The next day, he cleaned as usual but hid micro cameras in corners. Suddenly, Lou appeared behind him, saying his mental state was poor and he might become like Norma. Max tried to comfort him. Back in his room, Max monitored the screens. When he switched to the fourth floor camera, an old man appeared. At that moment, a person pushing a wheelchair walked by. It was the two administrators and the director. They seemed to be plotting. Max saw them enter an old man's room. Sensing danger, he rushed there. By the time he arrived, the door was locked. Painful wails came from inside, as if someone was suffering inhuman torture. He fled in fear. When Max returned, a woman appeared in his room. She told Max this was actually a facility for testing new drugs. The people here were lab rats. Because they were all elderly, no one would question if something happened. Max asked what this had to do with him. The woman said her father lived at the end of the hall but was moved to the fourth floor. She wanted Max to find evidence to expose them. As she prepared to leave, an unstable old man rushed in. During the struggle, Max's head hit a table corner, knocking him out. When he woke up, he was in a hospital bed. The administrator said a patient from the fourth floor escaped. Now, all signs pointed to the nursing home having problems. Max jumped out the window when the nurse left, hid at a gas station, and contacted his parents. However, after returning home, he found a shocking secret. In an old photo album, Max discovered with horror that the elderly people in the home all knew his parents. In the last photo, everyone was standing except for a woman in the middle who looked drained. He looked at another album. Strangely, over many years, these people's faces hadn't aged at all. The truth was now clear. These people found a secret to longevity, which is why the fourth floor patients were so weak. Max rushed back to the nursing home overnight to save people. He broke locks with a fire extinguisher and reached the fourth floor. It turned out these people were once young like him, but became this way because their life source was extracted. Just as Max wanted to save them, an anesthetic needle was stabbed into his neck. He woke up locked in a wheelchair by a group of elderly people. He didn't understand until he saw his own parents in the crowd. They wanted to extract Max's life source to achieve immortality. The doctor stepped out, and Max was pushed onto an operating table. The doctor intended to extract life essence from a gland behind his right eye. This was why his parents were so young at over 100 years old. They sent children to this home to be harvested when needed. The doctor said Max would become an old man after the surgery. They stuffed something into his mouth and placed instruments on his eyelids. The people nearby prayed, finding an excuse for their evil. When Max woke up, he was locked in a wheelchair. Because his life source wasn't fully drained at once, his body was just weak. Lou explained the truth. Norma was once one of them, but was killed for being too merciful and warning Max. Now Max was the only hope. One of the victims extracted the essence from the other's eyes and injected it into Max. When the administrator entered, the elderly people were all extremely weak. Max rushed out and stabbed him. Carrying the will of the victims, a violent revenge began. He became like a god of death, using an axe on everyone he saw. The hallway became a slaughterhouse. People fled in terror, but it was too late. After killing the administrators, he took Lou and found the director. After the director ran out of bullets, Max killed him without mercy. His parents did not survive either. Finally, Max rescued all the remaining victims, and the movie ended.